Minnesota 22-16. That game, however, played in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the first outdoor home game for the Detroit Mechanix. And a little bit more history here today when the Detroit Mechanix complete this matchup with the Cincinnati Revolution. It will be the first ever home weekend in the AUDL, meaning that the Detroit Mechanix are the first team to ever play back-to-back home games in a single weekend. Right now, the Cincinnati Revolution being introduced. You see Kevin Kula as he runs out on the field. Former member of the Columbus Cranes has made his way down south in the Buckeye State to play with the Bluegrass Revolution, and I should say the Cincinnati Revolution. I told myself I was going to do that once this broadcast. I apologize. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But the Cincinnati Revolution now, formerly the Bluegrass Revolution, moving across the border into Ohio to play in Cincinnati. Now this is a tale of two different teams. The Detroit Mechanix coming into this contest after their victory yesterday, advancing to 3-1 on the season, and a tie right now with the Madison Radicals for second place in the Midwest Conference at 3-1. Right now, the Windy City Wildfire holds sole possession of first place with a 4-1 record. They defeated the Indy Alley Cats last night by a score of, give me just a second here, by a score of 25-17. So Brody Smith, A.J. Nelson, Goose Helton up there doing their job, taking over first place. But today, Detroit eyes that very spot and will possibly sit in good standing in the 1 and 2 spots with 4-1 records if they can get a win over this Cincinnati Revolution team. The Revolution coming into this contest, as we mentioned, a little bit different than the way things went for them last year. They were the surprise team at the beginning of the year in the AUDL last year, going 3-0 before losing their first game to Indianapolis. This time around, things have gone the other way. They have struggled to defeat many teams, the only win coming against the Minnesota Wind Chill. Other than that, they have struggled. The most interesting thing about the Revolution right now, their last loss on their schedule came to this very Detroit Mechanix team at home in Cincinnati. So a grudge match. Cincinnati has not had a game in between that. They're playing back-to-back games against Detroit. Detroit yesterday, as we mentioned, playing Minnesota. They come onto the field in celebration. It's been good times here for Detroit lately. They were picked to be one of the bottom dwellers of this Midwest Conference, and right now they have proved everybody wrong, and it seems that owner Brent Steep and the coaches Andrew Lucarati, Ken Porter, and Ben Murphy are more than happy to take that stance. They appreciate that underdog role here in the league. They were last year as they nearly missed the playoffs with a 7-9 record. But we're going to step aside here quickly and play the anthem here for you at home.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming?
Brooke McKay there with the national anthem as the crowd applauds, the players as well. They will meet up now at center field, as always is done in the AUDL, to flip the coin and decide who will take possession. The Detroit Mechanics have been on the winning side of this most of the time this year. They typically pick to receive the disc in the second quarter and fourth quarter. So when they win, they defer to the other side, or I should say they choose to pull. We'll see what happens here as the captains head out to center field to get the flip underway. Coming into this game, the Cincinnati Revolution, they're a deceptive team. They play things a little bit different than the other teams in the league. Getting to talk to GM Ramey Youngkin earlier today, discussed what exactly their offensive powers are and what they try to do on offense. And you're going to see a slower offense here, but that's all intended. Defensively, they try to do the same thing as well. One of their big goals is to eat up as much time off that clock as they possibly can. Doesn't mean if somebody cuts deep and he's open, they're not going to make that throw, but it's more about trying to make those precise throws, those good throws that you know are going to be received and are going to take a few time off the clock, dipping and dunking it up the field. The Detroit Mechanics, they play a similar game, but you know when the disc is in the hands of some of those handlers, Ben Murphy, Dave Hohalter, they're not afraid to go deep. So they do try and play that run and gun a little bit mixed up with some of the slower tempo. We saw a little bit of that offense yesterday when they took on Minnesota. Flip has been made. Not real sure who's going to get the toss, but the Detroit Mechanics will run and gun when they can, and they'll also slow things down and work it between their handlers when they have that ability as well. So look for an interesting game, sort of a matchup of two different offenses, two different styles of play, I should say. They're going to lay out, make those big Ds. Either side really will, and one of the guys to look for here on this Cincinnati Revolution squad, a guy that has been very impressive this year, Mark Fedorenko. He is one of the guys that Cincinnati turns to on the defensive side of things. So it appears Cincinnati will pull the disc off to Detroit. And this will be the first time actually here in Pontiac, Michigan, that Detroit has received a pull to start the game. So things will be a little bit different from the get-go here. To me, that's a disadvantage, especially playing in this indoor arena. You're going to get the disc in the first and third quarters. As a former football player, I always appreciated getting the ball to start the second half, getting the ball to start different times. So there's no chance that Detroit will have to score at the end of a period except for that second period where they will be able to maintain the disc on another pull going into the next quarter. Hopefully that made sense the way I put it. If not, hopefully I'll be able to show you here with the Bluegrass Revolution, who will receive the disc to start the second quarter. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that if the Revolution score at the very end of the first quarter, they will then receive the disc to start the second quarter. So it's a bit of an opposite effect. Typically in the game of football, you're always kicking the ball off. If someone scores at the end of a quarter, you would then kick the ball off to the other team. That's the way it works. But we're about ready to get underway. Johnny Bansfield set up for the Detroit Mechanics, and this is a battle of two originals in the AUDL. Both came into the league last year when it started. There are only three in the league. These two, along with the Indy Alley Cats, who fell yesterday to the hands of the Windy City Wildfire. But let's get underway as Bansfield pulls the disc down the field, and it'll be the Revolution set to receive. Couple big players offensively to note for this Revolution team. Sittler, who wears the number 9 out of Asheville, North Carolina. He is an Ohio U alum, though, so he's one of those guys. Is immediately going deep downfield to Gorman, are the Revolution, and Gorman now pulled up on the side about 10 yards from the end zone, gets it back to Isaac Jeffries. Jeffries on the far sideline being marked by Logan Van Treese, works it to Jeff Kula. Kula looking for the hammer, doesn't have anything, so works it back across to Seamer. Seamer back upfield to Lowell. Lowell, one of the guys who came up from Asheville as well. Jeffries in the end zone for the score, and it's a quick point here for the Revolution as they get out top with just 30 seconds ticking off the clock, 11 minutes and 24 seconds. So not wasting any time are the Revolution. And that's Isaac Jeffries right there, number 46. He's got a different build than most of the Ultimate players you're going to see out here. Sort of reminds me of a linebacker in the game of football, and that's sort of the way he plays. He stays low. He gets open. He can move quickly, defensively, offensively. He's just able to beat his defenders on this one as he receives the hammer from Jeff Kula for the first score of the game. So Isaac Jeffries, Jeff Kula getting things started off quickly. Shout out to all the Revolution fans watching back. I know a number of the members of the Club Team Steamboat checking things out here on GoLiveSportscast.com. We thank you for joining us today. And to all the Mechanix fans as well, thanks for joining us. Is the in-cut coming from Highsmith, but it'll be worked across to Lucarati before contact's made. Looks like that was number 11, Corley, Aaron Corley, getting into Andrew Lucarati. Lucarati will march off his 10 steps and reset for the Mechanix. Getting a couple of in-cuts. It's going to be Highsmith that Lucarati decides to play the disc off to. Highsmith back across the field, finding Matt Wilkin. Wilkin donning the hat today. Went with the headband yesterday. Hohalter going deep. Ben Ayers is there, but he's got a defender closely guarding him. And another defender comes up to assure the D will be made, and that was number 42, the guy we talked about at the beginning of the show, Fedorenko, who gets the D grab there. So that's one of the guys that this Revolution team is excited about. Mark Fedorenko, so quick, so swift on the defensive side. Todd Grace now starting things off for the Revolution. Immediately going downfield is Ben Olsen. Olsen has his receiver, but he's unable to stay on his feet as he falls to the ground. Narayan unable to pull that up. So the Mechanix have the disc now on the far sideline. Ferguson looking up, throws it to Highsmith, who's wide open in the middle of the field. No defense on him, no defender on him, I should say, as Lucarati goes to the end zone. Another chance at a D right there. That's exactly what they do. Ben Ayers weighs out for it, but he's not anywhere close to it as it falls to the ground. Big D right there by, who other than Fedorenko. We're 2 plays, essentially 2 or 3 plays into this game defensively for Fedorenko, and he's already made 2 Ds. So clearly the guy that they're going to turn to, one of the tops in the league. Matt Wilkin, on the other hand, for the Detroit Mechanix, is the inverse side of things, as he is the 5th highest defender in the league in total Ds, as Chen comes down with that, pulling it down. And they will continue to work the disc back up to Highsmith. Highsmith slows things down in the center of the field, works it back across to Ferguson. It's Ben Murphy, I should say, not Chen. Christo Ferguson back across to Highsmith. Highsmith doing a good job of getting open as Todd Grace puts the mark on him after the reception. Olsen now guarding Hughes. Hughes drops it back to Ferguson. Ferguson back up to Hughes. Hughes slowing things down on the far sideline. Gets the strike cut from Ferguson into the end zone. Highsmith, Hohalter, or will it be the Revs? No, it's Hohalter who comes down with it. Big grab there by Hohalter over the likes of Fedorenko, who was able to get to 2 Ds on that play. I believe the other player there was Foley. But Dave Hohalter coming up big on that one. He found his way into the end zone quite a few times yesterday, continuing to do the same today. And he is one of the AUDL's top scorers in the league, along with A.J. Nelson, who currently leads the league right now. Dave Hohalter has 15 receptions in the end zone. That's actually before coming into this weekend, so that number's increased. He may very well be at the top of the league after things get done if he keeps on the pace he's done. Also, one of the top assist guys in the league coming into this weekend. Dave Hohalter had 24, 30 behind the likes of Brody Smith, who leads the league with 54. Excuse me. The Revolution received the disc now. It's a 1-1 game, 8 minutes, 42 seconds, and they continue to work it upfield as Mack sends it to Jeff Kula, back upfield to Powers. Powers continues the disc across to his handlers before getting it back into the center of the field to Powers. Powers goes back to his handlers, and they're going to work this up on a duo. Finally, the Mechanix get onto it and slow things down. Powers going deep, and there's that open cut. They got a number of guys who were throwing it if you're going to let them be, and Todd Grace is able to get to that, and there's the score right there by Isaac Jeffries for the score. Isaac Jeffries with his second of the game. Todd Chamberlain, I should say, with the assist there. That was Todd Chamberlain on the deep cut. And Isaac Jeffries, who receives his second and has tallied all of the Revolution's points right now. So now it'll be the Bluegrass who pull across the field to the Mechanics. As the two sides match up. 2 quick points by Cincy have helped them to take the lead here. Detroit wanting to get back into things as the pull comes down into their hands on that far sideline. Detroit's going to receive and work it back into the middle. Hohalter's never afraid to go deep, but has Ferguson on the in cut, works it back across. Looked like that was originally intended for Murphy as Hughes cut it off. But now it's Murphy who finds himself with the disc. Hughes looking to cut deep, but being worked on by his defender. But Highsmith comes up the seam, and he's there in the end zone for the score. What a great play by Highsmith to read the defense, the offensive cut of Evan Hughes. If we can take a look at this again, Evan Hughes was upfield trying to make a cut. He comes in, James Highsmith is able to read off that cut, and he runs into the end zone for the score virtually unguarded. A great cut there by James Highsmith. But just a phenomenal job of reading this. And this is what you talk about, the importance of being a cutter. Sometimes it's the handler who gets the cutter open. Other times it's the other way around, who the cutter makes the throw really for the handler. And this is a no-brainer. As we see Ben Murphy there with the disc, he goes into the end zone, and you have a wide-open James Highsmith. You couldn't see it, but downfield, I assure you, Evan Hughes was making a cut in. As soon as Highsmith read that cut, he took off deep and virtually lost his defender to the fact that there was a little bit of confusion there. 2 players coming off trying to guard Evan Hughes, who was coming in because his defender was a few steps behind him. But a great play, as we mentioned, by Highsmith to get the read and get the score. This goes out of bounds. It'll be brought back in. Ryan Gorman starting things off, gets it to Jeffries on the in cut, back to Gorman. No, D by Abella. Logan Van Treese will pick things up as the defensive handler. He usually sets the offensive swing of things here. Weber now just short of the end zone, being guarded tightly by the Revolution defense. His swing being worked across to Bansfield. Clear across the field. Barnhart slowing things down, gets it back to Bansfield. Bansfield looking for the hammer, decides better of it, gets Weber into the end zone. I believe that was number 37 for the Detroit Mechanics. Buttermeyer on the catch. Nathan Buttermeyer, one of the new additions, a Toledo native, coming into the game, and we'll take a look at this one more time. And a great cut by him to get open. Notice the swing. And this will be reversed back across the field. There you see Buttermeyer on the in cut, and he just stays with it. He's got his defender on him, and now you'll see him streak across the screen and lay out for the score. Good play there by Buttermeyer. So this Detroit Mechanics team, maybe expecting a little jet lag from them, as they did have to play about an hour away yesterday, get in their cars and make the trip back up. But they don't seem too fatigued after that Minnesota wind chill game. This, their second of the week, and as we mentioned, good strong pull there by Detroit as it goes out the back of the end zone. So now it'll be the Revolution who have a chance to answer. Remember, the Revolution received to start things, so right now Detroit on the advantage on the scores. One extra as Jeff Kula gets things started upfield. Now here comes the Revolution. Gorman goes across, but looks like it's deep by Logan Van Treese there as Sittler tried to play it. It's back across now to Logan Van Treese for the Mechanics. He works it in the middle of the field. Johnny Bansfield being guarded by Gorman. Back across to Van Treese. Van Treese back to Bansfield in the middle of the field. He goes up, overthrows Abella, but he still gets to it over a diving Lowell. Play's going to be stopped. Lowell apologizing for the hit, or discussing the hit with Abella. One or the other. Either way, we're playing ultimate. There's the throw from Abella. No, he decides to hold on to it as the in cut wasn't there for him. Goes back to the end zone. And yesterday we talked about the importance of the front of the end zone. Now the Mechanics trying to utilize the back as that goes out of the reach of Johnny Bansfield and will not be a score here. Jeff Kula will go back and pick that up. For the Revolution now, bringing it up is Jeff Kula. Logan Van Treese set to put the mark on him as soon as the disc is tapped in. 5 minutes, 53 seconds left on the clock. A 3-2 game here for Detroit. Gorman works the disc back to Powers. Powers back to Kula. You're going to see these guys handling a lot. Lowell out of Asheville, North Carolina, came up with a few of the players, one of those being Ryan Gorman. Back up, working across the field now are the Revolution as it's Lowell who catches it on that far sideline, going to Jeffries for his third possible score. Goes up and over Hubbard for the point, and it's 3-3. Isaac Jeffries responsible for every point so far Cincinnati has put on the board, but a great job again by him to get that one in. Oh, it looks like we're actually going to have a foul called. He was out of bounds, I should say. Detroit now will bring the disc in. We have a player falling for the Cincinnati Revolution. That's going to be called upfield. Looked like the contact came between two players. A timeout, actually, on the field. Timeout for DMX. They will get things resituated, as will the Cincinnati Revolution. As they discuss things over. Detroit with the disc. Has had a good start here today, but Cincinnati has to be happy with the way things have gone. Gotten 2 quick points, a near one there by Isaac Jeffries. And he's really been the offensive output for this team. Isaac Jeffries, who played last year with the Indy Alley Cats, is the lead goal scorer for this Revolution team. So it's no secret anymore. It's out. Last year, maybe a little bit underutilized or just not utilized correctly by the Indy Alley Cats, as he seemed to be more of a defensive player. This time around, he's on the offensive side of the disc and has done quite the job of finding his way into the end zone. As we mentioned, coming into today's game, 10 goals for Isaac Jeffries. So that's going to be a guy the Detroit Mechanics are going to have to watch as the game proceeds here. And clearly no secret that he has that ability on Detroit as well, as he has been the only player to receive a goal. Right now the referee talking things over with Matt Wilkin. Wilkin going to be stuck on that sideline. We're going to have a double team immediately by the Mechanics as that goes across in. That's Evan Hughes who comes down with it in front of his receiver. Works it over to Hohalter. Hohalter back into the middle to Hughes. Highsmith still in their own end zone right now as Detroit. They need to work at getting that out, and that'll help them, as that is a 10-yard penalty. So Highsmith will be able to walk the disc out of the front of the end zone and reset things here for Detroit. Dave Hohalter on the strike cut. Goes upfield for Ferguson. A deep player downfield is Ben Ayers. Ben Murphy gets the in cut, though. Hohalter looking deep. Doesn't have anything. Comes back in the strike cut to Ferguson. Ferguson goes into the end zone. Evan Hughes for the score. 4-2 Detroit Mechanics in the early goings of this game. 4 minutes, 3 seconds left on the clock in the first quarter. Big play there by Evan Hughes. This is where the game starts and ends, and Evan Hughes realizes that as he makes a good cut, his first goal of the game. Christo Ferguson, his first assist. As now we take a look at it. Comes across, I should say, Dave Hohalter looks like gets the assist here. Oh, there it is. To Ferguson. Ferguson in the end zone to Hughes. So a good start here, actually, by both squads. Right now, Cincinnati, we told you at the beginning of things, they want to slow the game down. They want to keep the pace to their own. May not look like it as much on the scoreboard right now with 6 points already in the going. Nearly through this first quarter, but you got to remember playing indoors, things change a little bit. They still try to take time off the clock. There's Jeff Kula. Works the disc to a diving Powers. Powers back up, has Lowell. Into the middle of the field. No, holds on to it. Works the backhand, finding Jeffries. Say this about Isaac Jeffries, too. Doesn't look like he drops a lot as he puts that into the end zone. Lowell going deep. Goes up for it. That's Powers, actually. Goes up for it. Weber's just short. He's not guarding his man, and there's going to be the score. As Powers easily able to find his man, Todd Chamberlain, for his second count of the day. And just a bad play there by Weber, who thought that his man was in the end zone. So he gave up on Lowell. Lowell has an easy open throw. Not much you can do if you're defending Chamberlain on that one with nobody marking. Pretty much allows Lowell to throw whatever he wants to Chamberlain for the score. Lowell, one of those players out of North Carolina as well, from the Asheville area. Played his high school ultimate in the state of Georgia. So players from all over the country joining the AUDL this year. It's been relevant in every team. A couple players from the Florida area playing for the Windy City Wildfire. Few here from out of state in Detroit. Monty Jones from the prairie country of Kansas. Going deep, Ferguson, it's going to have enough. It's going to carry him into the end zone. He's going to score. There's that run-and-gun offense right there as Ferguson wide open on the toss from Hohalter, and we see it on a weekly basis, and this weekend a daily basis. Hohalter to Ferguson deep, and as we mentioned, Dave Hohalter, he's not afraid to release anything, and that's been a big reason of why he is one of the assist leaders and one of the goal leaders in the AUDL. He's so intelligent with his on-field knowledge. He has the ability to read cutters, know when to put that disc in the air, and a great cut there by Ferguson as well. As you take a look at it and just how well he was able to put this disc. I mean, this is a two-throw play. That's it. 2 throws. Dave Hohalter from his end zone, essentially, about 5 yards out of it, going 75 yards downfield to reach Christo Ferguson for the point. Great put there by Dave Hohalter. The more impressive thing is right on the money. Didn't look like Ferguson had to slow down at all for that one. Defender never had a chance. You can't ask for much more out of a handler than that. Powers on this near sideline now for the Revolution. Gets it to Gorman. Back to the handlers. Lowell now on the in cut. Gorman trying to cut in for him, but being guarded tightly by Abella. Going deep now to Isaac Jeffries. Who other than Isaac Jeffries as he finds himself in the end zone for a fourth time in this contest for the Revolution. So Isaac Jeffries in the early goings of this game has 3 scores. As we see him walking back to his sideline. Just a great cut there, and we'll take a look at it one more time. And basically right here, you say whatever you can do, we can do as well, as they go deep, and it's no problem. Coming down with it in the end zone, Isaac Jeffries. Looked like that was Sittler, I think, on the assist. Powerful backhand, and that's one of the things we talked about at the beginning. This team doesn't like to go real fast downfield, but if you give them that open cut, they're going to give it. They're going to take it. That's the other thing with the Cincinnati Revolution is they methodically kind of lure you into the fact that they're going to take the in cuts, Jeffries cuts deep on that one, and they got the easy score. 5-4 right now. The Detroit Mechanics leading the visiting Cincinnati Revolution, making the trip up today. Highsmith with a low release, but able to pick it up as Hohalter to Ben Ayers. Ben Ayers from New Hampshire going deep, putting the disc into the air. James Highsmith goes up, climbing the ladder and pulling it down over his defender. What a grab right there. 6-4 now. James Highsmith, his second time in the end zone today. What a catch. Going up over Ben Olson for that one. Doesn't get much better than that. That's what the game of ultimate brings to you, jump balls. And Ben Olson had no problem. Or I should say, Ben Olson had quite a bit of a problem there with James Highsmith, who just goes up and over him for the score. Take a look at it one more time there from Ben Ayers and just see how high James Highsmith gets. Now, it helps when you got a couple of inches on the guy guarding you, but still a fantastic job of James Highsmith to climb the top of the tree there and pick up the disc. Defensive line now out on the field for Detroit. Offense trying to get things going here for the Revolution. As it comes down, it'll be Sittler who receives things and gets things going to Jeff Kalula down near the far sideline now. It's work to Lowell. Lowell looking for Gorman. Doesn't have, or I should say Mack. Doesn't have the throw. Instead gets it to Kulu, who gets to Mack. Mack back upfield, finding Ben Sage. He works it to Powers. Powers setting things up as the mark being put on by Bansfield. Kula going upfield once again. It's Mack with the inside-out throw. Isaac Jeffries. Who else? Isaac Jeffries has been a thorn in the side of the Detroit Mechanics in this first quarter. He puts one more in. That's his fourth. The only other player to score for Cincinnati in the goings of this game has been Todd Chamberlain. Pretty good start to the stats page. Any of those playing Fantasy Ultimate in the AUDL is going to want to pick this guy up. You'll see him here shortly on your screen. There's Jeff Kula with the throw to Mack, who's simply going to put that up for Isaac Jeffries. Isaac Jeffries making the end zone his home today. And this is actually where Detroit struggled in the first game against Cameron Brock of the Indy Alley Cats. He was able to get by the defense for 14 scores, setting a new record in the AUDL for a single game. Detroit's got to do something to figure out how exactly to solve Isaac Jeffries. They've got plenty of time to do it, as we are still only in the first quarter. The game's brand new, but a big defensive play there by who other than Fedorenko. That's his third D of the day. Great young player. Todd Grace picks the disc up, looking for the ISO, works it back to Fedorenko. Grace now on the near sideline, looking for some cuts in the end zone. He has about three players cutting the same way, blocking each other, so now they work it across. Ryan Gorman back to the middle of the field, finding Seamer. Seamer back to Gorman on the far side. He's got a cut there, works it. Now on that near sideline, going for the strike cut. Now he has two handlers dumping into each other, but it's worked back up. Seamer back across the field, finding his man. Gets it to Fedorenko, who's just short of the end zone on the throw there to Sage. And Gorman with the score. Tiptoeing the line, he gets 1 foot in, and that's all he needs for the score. Ben Olson on the assist. Ben Olson with a good put. If he throws it any further the other way, that's going to be out of bounds. And a great job by Ryan Gorman to get his feet inbounds and get the grab. We'll take a look at that one more time. Ryan Gorman actually was playing handler at the start of this point. He eventually decides it's not going to work out for him, so he cuts upfield, and here it is right here. The throw into Ben Olson, who's going to go across field for a wide-open Gorman, but not making it easy for Gorman to get the grab. Good job there by Cincinnati to tie things up. Now 6-6, 1 minute, 18 seconds left. And this is essentially what happened yesterday to the Detroit Mechanics. It seems like they have control of this game. They start out strong. They've been playing strong. Doesn't seem like there's any reason to think they're not going to score, but all of a sudden the other team comes back into the game, and in this case the Revolution trying to spoil the party. the good times here for the Detroit Mechanics as Dave Hohalter now has the disc being marked immediately by Foley. Goes upfield. Highsmith on the strike cut is Hohalter. He wants it, but Highsmith doesn't have the throw, so he goes back to Wilkin. Setting things up now will be Worsfold. He goes back to Ben Murphy. Murphy now upfield to Ferguson. Ferguson looking for Murphy, and that's going to go wild, and it will be a Cincinnati Revolution disc with a chance to take the lead here at the end of the first quarter. Someone better get to the disc, though. There's only 32 seconds on the clock. Cincinnati taking their time, maybe wants that last shot, but hey, that last shot's going to come sooner than they think if they don't pick it up. Fedorenko now getting things started here for Cincy. Works it up the sideline. Deep throw, not a lot of time, 17 seconds. It's going to be a jump ball, and going up for it, Mark Worsfold. He was competing with Ben Sage there, but Sage just never had position, and Worsfold used his body to eye him out. 5 seconds now. It's Ben Murphy going deep, has Highsmith. He goes up, and it's a big D there, I believe, by Sittler to end that one. Good first quarter here. We're tied at 6 in Pontiac, Michigan at the Ultimate Soccer Arena, and both teams utilizing their defense in this one so far. The Detroit Mechanics defense has been on par with that of the rest of the league. In fact, it's probably been their stronghold in the early goings of this league. A big reason of why they pulled out that double overtime thriller 2 weeks ago here in the Ultimate Soccer Arena against Madison. They have that bend but not break mentality, and for the Revolution, it does seem that offensively, defensively, you see Isaac Jeffries, who's really been the story of the game thus far for Cincinnati, has 4 of the team's 6 scores and continues to impress and shock that Detroit Mechanics defense. Both squads talking things over. While they do that, let's take a look at the AUDL standings. We talked about what was happening in the Midwest and that Windy City Wildfire were atop of things. The Minnesota Wind Chill, the other surprise there. A lot of people expected big things now that team. Not to say big things won't happen, but right now they find themselves sitting on the bottom with a 1-4 record after yesterday's loss to Detroit and Friday's loss to Madison. The Windy City on top, 4 games, 4 wins, 1 loss. The Detroit Mechanics in second place with a 3-1 record, tied with Madison, who also has a 3-1 record. And this very Cincinnati Revolution team sitting in second to last with Indianapolis with a 1-3 record. That could change today. However, if they get the win, they would then be in about the same position, but they would at least have another win, so they would appreciate that with a game next week against this very same Detroit Mechanics team. In the East, the team that is, I won't say shocked. A lot of people thought they were going to be a very good team, and indeed they have. The owner, Rob Lloyd, his son, Mark Lloyd, playing for the squad, impressing the AUDL as well. Mark Lloyd, one of the top defenders in the league, but the Toronto Rush right now with a 5-0 record. No one has touched them. They've had one close game against the Philadelphia Phoenix that they took 22-21. Other than that, they've pretty much been blowing out their opponents. The most recent victim of the Toronto Rush last night was the New Jersey Hammerheads. They fell 31-18 to Toronto. So look for Toronto to come out of that East. Clearly, 2 teams will make it to the playoffs, but right now it's looking like it's going to be Toronto who will be representing that team in the championship, but there will be a lot of games left to play for them. So someone could catch them. The New York Empire in second place, a 2-1 record. The Philadelphia Phoenix, 1-1. New Jersey Hammerheads are now 1-2 after yesterday's loss. DC Breeze in action right now against the Philadelphia Phoenix. I will update you on a score when I have that. They are 1-2. And the Rochester Dragons struggling with an 0-4 record. They are in action today as well against the New Jersey Hammerheads. So the Hammerheads have a chance to avenge that loss from last night against Toronto. Actually going on right now against the Rochester Dragon. Detroit receives the disc on the pole to start things off here in the second quarter, and they will work it across to none other than Ferguson. Ferguson to Highsmith, who drops the disc. Wearing those gloves. Some Ultimate players prefer to use those. Others not so much, but Highsmith is one of those guys who opts to use them. Now, you're not supposed to have something that adds to your ability to Corley going into the end zone, finds his man for the score, and again, it is the Cincinnati Revolution with the score, finding number 13, Jimmy Herron, for his first score of the game. Well played offensive point there by the Cincinnati Revolution. As I was saying, a lot of players choose to wear those gloves. It's just sort of your preference. Some believe it gives them a little better grip. So James Highsmith, one of those guys who chooses to do it. Aaron Corley with the catch there in the throw. And there's Herron for the grab over a bidding Detroit Mechanix player. Couple names to mention here as well. Chris Kaiser and Todd Grace doing a good job coaching the Cincinnati Revolution team. I think a lot of people look at their record right now and say 1-3. They're struggling, and I think they would tell you they're struggling too, but it's a long AUDL season. 16 games involved. You're going to play all these teams again, so you're going to get an idea of what they are. Right now they have played most of the teams. In fact, I think they've played everyone but Madison so far on the season has Cincinnati. So they're getting an idea of what these guys like to do, and as you play against these guys going deep now are the Mechanix for Ben Ayers. He's got a man on him going up and over. His defender is Ben Ayers for the score. Fedorenko, he's got 3 Ds on the day, but Ben Ayers not going to let him get to that one. Ben Ayers, a physical ultimate player. He's a former under-18 New Hampshire State rugby player. Played for them in a couple of rugby tournaments. Was a state champion in football 2 times in New Hampshire. And brings his skills over to the ultimate field. And you got to love those dual sport athletes, guys who have played other things and come into the game of ultimate. It just adds a different era. They have an eye for the game, and you can see here Ben Ayers uses his body, gets up, gets the grab over his defender, Fedorenko. Tell you this, though, Fedorenko hasn't made it easy for Ben Ayers when he's been marking him. Ben Ayers or any other Detroit Mechanix player. Fedorenko has made 3 Ds in the early goings of this game. Jeff Kula now will get things started in the middle of the field, just outside his own end zone for the Revolution, and we have an injury on the field. Looks like Zach Barnhart going down. Is going up and taking the disc away is Johnny Bansfield. Play will stop now as an injury was called back behind the play. That is Zach Barnhart. Not sure what exactly happened on the play. I just saw him go down. A lot of people yelled and play stopped. Obviously, though, you have the continuation. The disc was in the air. So the referee allows the final play. And it was Bansfield who came down with the disc over Todd Chamberlain. Now Bansfield will work it across to the near sideline, getting Andrew Lucarati involved to Huber. Huber being marked tightly by Will Powers. Back to Lucarati. Lucarati into the middle of the field to Van Treese. Right now, the Mechanix working their end game until Bansfield goes with the hammer. It starts to turn on him, though, and it'll come down as Eric Hubbard runs into his defender. Gorman getting called on the foul. Ouch. Picking the disc up and going 10 yards are the Detroit Mechanix, Andrew Lucarati. He's going to find his man in the end zone, Abella, with the score. Gorman upset with the call. Can't say that I would blame him. But the referee's call is final, so it will be a score for the Detroit Mechanix. Right now the officials are talking things over. Doesn't look like anything's going to change, though. I'll say this. For the officials in Detroit, they talk things over. Now they're going to call over one of the Mechanix players. But I'll say this for the officials in Detroit. They have let things play out. They've let things get a little physical and players go at it to an extent. And you had a play there where There was a call. Sort of uncharacteristic of what we've seen. And it looks like play is going to be called back. They may, in fact, reward Ryan Gorman with the disc here. I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a turnover instead of that score. So the score will go back to 7-7. We'll continue from where time clicked off the clock. And if you're confused, don't be alarmed. I think a lot of people are, including the players right now. From my understanding, the officials are going to go back and say the throw from Lucarati into the end zone never counted. The foul should not have been called against Gorman. And actually, Detroit's going to maintain possession. So they are going to give the foul to Eric Hubbard, I suppose. But they will start things off 10 yards out of the end zone. Logan Van Treese will take the disc. It's called in by the officials. He throws it, has Bansfield. Bansfield into Lucarati, so the point counts anyway, 8-7. A lot of time for the same result. 8-7 now, the Detroit Mechanics lead. 10 minutes and 4 seconds on the clock. I'll say, I think Ryan Gorman got a rough deal on that one. Eric Hubbard went in. It looked like Gorman was in that position. My understanding, the game of ultimate, essentially that's like a charge call. Once a player has that area taken over, once that's their space, you can't run into them in that space, and it looked like Gorman just went up there. I did not see, though. I don't know if he backed into Hubbard. I mean, that would be the only reason I feel the referees would have made that call if they truly felt that happened. But it seemed that Gorman was set in that spot, and Hubbard ran forward into him. Rough call there for the Revolution, though. Now an 8-7 lead. Still in this game. Nothing to worry about as Jeff Kula works the disc to Mack. Mack across field, finding Lowell, who goes deep. He's got Sittler with plenty of time. Sittler now waiting for the offense to approach as he works it back to his handler, Powers. Powers working the disc across now to Jeff Kula. Jeff Kula's brother on the squad as well, Kevin Kula. Where's the number 24? Isaac Jeffries, go figure, into the end zone for the score over a bidding. Johnny Bansfield. Another big score there by Isaac Jeffries. That's been the story here for the Cincinnati Revolution. Right now, no one is guarding Isaac Jeffries. No one's able to keep up with him. No one's able to stay on him. He's found his way into the end zone a number of times. And again, a deceiving player. You look at this guy, he's not the typical ultimate build. He's a bigger fella on the field. I think that deceives players into thinking he's going to go in more times than not. But he's beaten Detroit any way possible. He's come in, he's gone out, he's gone for deep cuts. The only thing he hasn't done is throw the disc into the end zone. But we've got plenty of time here. 9 minutes, 33 seconds left to play in the first half. An 8-8 tie right now between Cincinnati and Detroit. The second matchup of the year between these two teams. The last matchup was just last week. The Cincinnati Revolution fell to Detroit in that one. Detroit able to hold Cincinnati to an AUDL low 11 points. The only other team to only score 11 points in a game was the Rhode Island Rampage against Connecticut last year. And now going deep is James Highsmith. We don't see that throw a lot from him. Todd Grace able to go, though, and knock the disc away from Christo Ferguson. So Cincinnati will have the disc just outside of their end zone as time continues to clock off, and we'll see just how they utilize their team now as Corley receives the throw from Grace across the field to Fedorenko. Fedorenko finds his man. Grace looking for the in cut. Instead, going across field is Ben Olsen, who finds Gorman. Gorman looking upfield now. Finds his man, Fedorenko. Fedorenko typically doing things on the defensive side of the disc, but has no problem as it's number 13, Heron, who gets the disc and has it D'd by the Mechanics. Back across, Wilkin to Hughes. Hughes into Ferguson as they work their way upfield now. Threatening to score are the Detroit Mechanics. Just about 30 yards away from the end zone. Nothing going for Hughes. Finally gets a strike cut from Hohalter. Looks up. Ben Murphy. Just short. Murphy into the end zone. Christo Ferguson wide open for the score. Didn't look like anyone was guarding him. I'm pretty sure Christo Ferguson feels the same way, as he was all by himself for the easy point. 9-8, 8 minutes and 10 seconds left in this contest. Two sides trading points right now, which really isn't a bad deal for either side. I'm sure either one would love to be up by 15 points right now, but it's not the way the game works. We take a look at the replay again, and I don't know who was guarding him. My guess would be Todd Grace. It looked like Dave Hohalter was cutting up the field, though, from his handler position, and he decided that the better thing to do would make sure that Hohalter didn't get open, and instead he leaves his man Christo Ferguson wide open for the score. So there you have it. 8 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock here to play in the second quarter, first half of the game. One game going on right now in action at halftime. Philadelphia Phoenix leading the DC Breeze by a score of 12-10. Again, they are at halftime. Again, Philadelphia in second place in the Eastern Conference standings. Much needed win for them there today if they can hold on to that one. DC looking for their first win still. Oh, no, they have a win. They've defeated Rochester. Rochester's the team looking for their first win. Mack with the disc is fouled by Logan Van Treese. That's going to be called. They will walk up field. DC Breeze have struggled here in the early goings of things in the season. A win today against a tough Philadelphia opponent would certainly help their mode out. But right now, Cincinnati hoping the same thing can happen for them as Will Power taps the disc in, upfield to Jeffries, and there's that in cut. He nearly has the throw for the score there, but it's Sittler now looking for an open receiver. He goes into the end zone. Lowell's unable to hold on to it, and that's going to be a turnover. Lowell just didn't have what he needed on that, just outside of his reach. As it comes back in, Andy Barnhart finding Schwelm. Brendan Schwelm now upfield, getting it to Monty Jones. Jones back to Schwelm. Schwelm, Van Treese across field. Being reset now by the Mechanics. Van Treese. Nothing going upfield. Decides finally to take a chance. He's got Andy Barnhart, and Barnhart gets it over his defender and add one more to the Detroit Mechanics side. 10-8 lead for the Mechanics. Big point there for Detroit to take a 2-point lead here. To adjust that break point. Take a look at it one more time. Looked like Logan Van Treese was getting down there in the stall count and finally just takes a shot as he has Andy Barnhart cutting. Good throw there. And he goes up over Eddie Mack of the Cincinnati Revolution for the score. Detroit now set to pull to Cincy. As Rusty and the Mechanics dance squad get the crowd into things here at the Ultimate Soccer Arena in Pontiac, Michigan. I am Matt Douglas. This is GoLiveSportsCast.com, covering all your home Detroit Mechanics games this season. This is the fourth home game so far for Detroit. After this, they will take a stint on the road beginning next week in Cincinnati, but right now they are here taking each other on as Power back to the middle. Gorman to Power again. Power looks upfield, has nothing. Finally, Jeffries gets the in cut. Jeffries with the hammer. Here's his chance at an assist. Gorman lays out, and that's a big point. 10-9 now as all Detroit leads over Cincinnati after that big layout catch by Ryan Gorman. What a play there by both players. Isaac Jeffries to have the guts to put that throw in there, and for Ryan Gorman to get the catch. Not an easy one by any means. We'll take a look at it one more time. So now Isaac Jeffries is officially thrown, caught. The only thing he needs a D is to be in that Triple Crown category. But what a great job there by Ryan Gorman to get himself over to that disc. And that's one of those when you're looking as a defender, you think there's no way he can get to this, no way he can get to this. And then the expletive comes out of your mouth after he catches it. It's just a bad state of affairs for the man guarding him in that situation. 6 minutes, 14 seconds, 10-9. Detroit leading Cincinnati as the pull comes their way. Here we go. It falls down into the arms of the Mechanix, Matt Wilkin, and he'll get things going. Evan Hughes upfield. 3 players wearing a hat for Detroit right now. Wilkin and Hughes, 2 of them. The other, Ben Murphy, on that far sideline. James Highsmith. Hohalter looks deep. You know he's not afraid to put it, but instead goes to Wilkin. Wilkin across the field. Ben Murphy to Wilkin. Back to Hohalter. Hohalter once airs deep. Airs not ready to make that cut yet. He comes in instead. Now he's got Evan Hughes, and he's not afraid to throw that. And Evan Hughes wide open in the end zone for the score. Todd Grace was the man guarding him in that situation. Grace just gave up on that one. He had no chance to defend it. It was a situation where Evan Hughes was going to get the point regardless of what Grace did. He was too many steps behind. Good cut there by Evan Hughes to get open. And Detroit takes a lead here, 11-9 over. And we'll take a look at it one more time and just look at how open Evan Hughes gets. And that's where he comes from, that handler position. You don't expect a big cut like that. Todd Grace certainly didn't. Evan Hughes with the big grab and then the celebration afterward. 2-point lead at the hands of the Mechanix right now. Things going the way they want them. If you're Cincinnati, things certainly going the way you want them right now. Obviously, you don't want to be scored on, but to be within 2 points is not a bad situation. They're clearly set to break the barrier they reached last week against Detroit of 11 points. Shouldn't be as hard to do this week in the indoor situation. Last week, my understanding is that the rain coming down just seemed to give players all kinds of fits. It was a sloppy game on both accounts. Is going deep downfield are the Revolution. Going up and grabbing that is Power to Jeffries in the end zone. Jeffries, no problem. And that's a situation. Jeffries just never gave up on that disc. And that's how you get those easy points in the AUDL or in the game of ultimate, period. Isaac Jeffries sees that's going to be a long pass. Everybody stops and becomes spectators watching to see if indeed that will be caught by the receiver. Once it is, Jeffries is right behind him as he's the only player who appeared to keep running on that. And he's in the end zone easily for the score. And we'll take a look at it one more time. And if you can see Jeffries, you can tell right there he's the only man continuing downfield. Obviously, Logan Van Treese was trying to make the D, but Isaac Jeffries is wide open after that. And he gets another big score. And we talked about 14 being the record in an AUDL game. I'd be willing to bet that when this game's over, Isaac Jeffries is somewhere near that mark. We'll find out, though. He's already coming close to those double digits. I believe he's at around 6 in the first half of play. Goes up. James Highsmith it is. Finding Ferguson. The quick mark being put on by Corley. Back to Hughes. Across the field to Wilkin. Highsmith. Murphy. Far sideline goes deep. Dave Hohalter, he's in the end zone. He lays out, and he can't hold on as it goes out the back of the end zone. Great cut by Hohalter. The Mechanix just couldn't connect to get that point. And now Cincinnati has a chance to tie it. Jeff Kula will bring the disc up. Throws that to the far sideline, and I'll correct myself there. That was not Jeff Kula. That was Fedorenko, but going deep here is Cincinnati. Corley, we saw a little bit of a hand check there. He pushed off Ferguson, but it doesn't matter. The officials don't call anything. Fedorenko's going to tie this up on the assist from Corley. That's what I talk about in the officials, the players keeping themselves separated. You got a few pushes here and there on deep throws. It's going to happen. The officials let it play out, and that certainly is what Detroit's officiating has become known for, which is great. It allows the game to flow. We'll take a look at it one more time on the deep cut. Going downfield, and there's the catch, just short of the end zone, and the score. Fedorenko getting D's, getting scores. 11-11 right now, all tied up, Cincinnati and Detroit. 4 minutes, 15 seconds left to play in the first half. Sittler with the pull. Detroit looking to answer, to take the lead back, make it 12-11. Evan Hughes in the back of the end zone. He's going to receive it and get it out to Wilkin. Wilkin looking deep. James Highsmith wide open. There's the throw. Can Highsmith get to it before the revolution? Yes is the answer, and he goes up and with a resounding stomp is in the end zone. No, they're going to call him just out. He's got a couple open receivers, and Evan Hughes is the one who wins the lottery as he gets the score from James Highsmith. Evan Hughes with the big score there. The big play, though, came from James Highsmith, who cut deep immediately after the throw. It was a good cut. He never had any intention of cutting in. As soon as it came down, the disc was received by Detroit. They got it immediately to Matt Wilkin. Matt Wilkin didn't waste any time going downfield to James Highsmith, who tried to get into the air with the score, and you take a look at it right there, and here comes the throw. Great precision. Falls just a little bit short, but a great backhand put. It looked like a score to me, but either way it worked out for the Mechanics as they were able to get themselves into the end zone on the pass there from Highsmith to Hughes. H2 on the connection. Hughes to Highsmith. 3 minutes, 57 seconds left in the first half of play. 1 point lead for the Mechanics. Revolution looking to spoil the party here in Detroit. Coming off a loss to these guys last week, they would love nothing more than to put an L or put a mark in the column for the Mechanics, as now it's worked across field. Power, Gorman. Power decides better of it. Goes up into the air on the hammer. Jeffries has an open man. Throws the fake on Bansfield and then has it stripped. That's going to be a strip call on Andrew Lucarati. Jeffries will mark off the 10 steps. Reset his count. Jeffries almost looks uncomfortable with the disc as he goes to his dump and immediately goes back upfield. Isaac Jeffries wide open right now. His man playing him in. They have Mark Worsfold on the guard there. They've seen Jeffries go deep too many times, so they switch things up. Gorman works the disc to Seamer. Seamer to Power. Power looks up, doesn't have the throw, looks back to Seamer. Instead, he finds his open man, Chamberlain, into the end zone to Gorman for the score, 12-12. We're all knotted up here at the end of the first half, 2 minutes and 49 seconds. These teams have traded points all day. If you're just tuning in, that's been the story. Cincinnati, they like to play a slower-paced game. They worked it up perfectly there, just beating the defense of the Detroit Mechanics. The Detroit Mechanics have played their typical, usual run-and-gun style of offense with the handlers that they have, their ability to put it just about anywhere on the end zone. We'll take a look at this one more time, and you can see just how well. I mean, these are not big throws. These are throws of just 5-10 yards at a time, and then finally Gorman gets open in the end zone, and they're able to get the point. So here we go. As the first half draws closer to an end, these two squads not giving anything to the other. And we have an ISO here. Dave Hohalter is going to be on that far sideline. Expect someone to cut deep off that. James Highsmith is the one who's going to do it, and that's immediately what they do. He thinks twice about it, though. Fedorenko should get this D, and he does. Fedorenko read that from start to finish. Hohalter should have held on to that one, maybe thought about an in-cut before throwing that one to Highsmith. Highsmith, I believe, even thought he was going to do that too, as now it's Sittler with the dish for the Revolution. I believe, a timeout called by the Revolution. You could read that play from the beginning. The Revolution knew exactly what was going on. What happened is after the pull was thrown downfield, the Detroit Mechanics lined up all but one of their players on this near sideline. The one player who wasn't was Dave Hohalter. The league knows that guy's got the deep throw. So essentially what Fedorenko did was play a safety-type position, as you would see in the NFL. He just dropped back off his man. That basically created two defenders for James Highsmith. Highsmith knew he was there, tried to come in, but Hohalter had already released the disc. And that's where you have that situation. Fedorenko was the only player who could have come down with that disc at that time. It would have taken a tremendous effort for Highsmith to have gotten that score. So good job by Cincinnati of recognizing that D, and that's where we talk about. Cincinnati's record is a little deceiving right now. 1-3, they've played 4 games. These are the teams that they've played. They've played Windy City, Minnesota, and Detroit, and then, of course, they played Chicago again last week, in which they lost 23-16. But now you've seen what these players do. You've seen the tendencies that Detroit has if you're Cincinnati, and vice versa for Detroit. That's what makes this weekend so big for the Mechanics as well. But for Cincinnati, knowing that a situation like that can occur and knowing that it's beat you in the past, you can then set Fedorenko back, and he's able to come up with the D. Now, for Detroit, the reason this weekend is so big is you've played everybody now in the league except for the Windy City Wildfire. The team's only going to play against their conference this year. They will not play out of conference until the championship game to be played later in July or early August. So if you get a win here and you're Detroit, you've beaten everybody but the Windy City Wildfire. You won't play back till the May 25th back here in Detroit. So you've seen what you're going to see, and you know you can beat what's out there, essentially, if you get the win here today. But Detroit now on defense, as it will be the Revolution who start things out with the disc. Lowell going deep. Sittler there, Gorman there, but instead it's going to be the Mechanics, Highsmith, who comes up with the D, and you have a collision between Highsmith and Hohalter, two players you don't want to see collide, you don't want to see injured, but it appears Hohalter will get up. Just shaken up a little bit. Highsmith, a little worried about him as he walks off the field. Matt Wilkin will replace him. Highsmith playing in his first weekend with the Detroit Mechanics. The Mechanics this week instead without Ken Porter. That's the other thing I would say to the rest of the conference here is when and if this Detroit Mechanics team ever becomes whole, watch out for him. We got the opportunity to see Ken Porter a couple weeks ago. What he did defensively against Madison was a big reason why Detroit was able to come out with that win. On the sideline here, Highsmith having his back looked at. Doesn't look too bad as he's still standing up. Ben Ayers going deep on the cut from Johnny Bansfield, and Bansfield put about 50 feet too much on that throw. That'll go out, and bringing the disc in now will be Fedorenko. Mark Fedorenko having a tremendous game so far defensively, has a couple of scores to boot also. Isaac Jeffries gets the quick grab and goes deep. He's got a man. I believe it's Ryan Gorman being matched up. He's going to try and jump into the end zone. Not quite there, though. Matt Wilkin matches up quickly to Lowell. Goes Gorman, and there's the score. Gorman to Lowell. 12-12. 12-13 now. Cincinnati taking their first lead of the game since the first point. Matt Wilkin talking now to the official. Joe Kuderbach, our head official in this game. As we take a look at it one more time, Isaac Jeffries going with that backhand. And when you give a player an open backhand like that, he's going to take advantage. Gorman falls just short of the end zone, but is able to get it to Lowell for the score. Lowell with a big grab there. The celebration as they continue to impress here in Detroit. Some good matchups this weekend in the AUDL. You saw the Toronto Rush. They were actually not televised, but I should say streamed online last night, so fans have been treated. And the Mechanics here have been streamed all weekend. It's Evan Hughes. Works back to Hohalter. Hohalter back to Hughes. Bansfield on the far sideline. He's next to receive the disc. All three handlers have touched it now, and we'll see if we can't get all three involved one more time as Hughes has the disc. Back to Bansfield, and no, they go across the field to Ferguson. Ferguson setting things up, looks for the backhand, decides to go forehand. Coming in for it is Evan Hughes. Dave Hohalter now looking deep. He's got Mark Worsfold. Well, that was an interesting call. Kevin Kula on the mark. There was some contact made between Kevin Kula and Dave Hohalter. So Hohalter now set to throw the disc across field. Bansfield works it to Evan Hughes. Now that's Ben Murphy to Ferguson. Ferguson back across into the center of the field. Bansfield to Hohalter. Hohalter has momentum. Goes to Bansfield, though, instead. Bansfield fakes the throw. Has it knocked out of his hands by Kevin Kula. You can't do that in the game of Ultimate, so instead of going 10 yards that way, since they're about 4 yards from the end zone, what happens is they're able to walk it to the front of the line and center it. So plenty of room to work in that end zone. Remember, it's 20 yards deep, so every cutter has 20 yards they can work with. And remember, 53 yards wide. In the USA Ultimate rules, the end zone would be 25 yards deep. Not the case here, though, in the AUDL. Field is essentially designed to fit on a football field so that the use of lines is always available to the teams. Here in Detroit, though, we play on a soccer field. The teams play on a soccer field. So the lines are installed. And now we are discussing things with the officials once again. Not exactly sure what it is. I think 10 seconds to be put up on the clock, and that is indeed the deal. If a penalty occurs under the 10-second mark, a defensive penalty, then the clock returns to 10 seconds. The disc tapped in, 6 seconds on the clock. This would be a big D here for Cincinnati, but there's the old broadcaster's curse. As I say it, Johnny Bansfield goes in for the score. 2.7 seconds left. And it looks like this will be all tied up at 13 going into the half. We do have 2 seconds left. We've seen teams score with just this short an amount of time. So it's not like it can't happen. But we're going to get one more shot at the end zone. What you will see here, and Detroit's actually, a couple weeks ago against Madison, Detroit actually threw what would be considered a squibber, or a squib kick in football. They threw a roller that was stopped at about the 20-yard line, but you have to remember the play doesn't start when a player touches it. A player can stop a rolling disc and prevent its momentum and then pick it up. Once the disc is picked up, that's when the clock starts. So to throw a roller is really not the best decision you have. But that's what we're going to get here again. Picked up immediately. The disc goes up into the air. They're going to have a chance at the end zone. It comes down. Fedorenko there, but so is Highsmith. Back problem? I don't think so. Highsmith pulls that down. We're at halftime. 13-13, game tied. We'll tell you more of what's going on. Get you some stats after the break here. We'll see you here on Go Live Sportscast in just a couple of minutes. Other games in action as we are in the third quarter in Washington, D.C. The Philadelphia Phoenix and D.C. Breeze are all tied up at 16 apiece. And one other game going on in the AUDL right now. Rochester is taking on the New Jersey Hammerheads. And last I saw, that was an 8-6 lead at the hands of the Rochester Dragons, looking to get their first win. New Jersey in the tail end of a doubleheader this weekend. In that contest last night, they took on the Toronto Rush. But we got a good one for you here in Pontiac, Michigan, as Detroit Mechanics, they found success with their deep cuts, the big throws from Dave Hohalter. On the other side of things, the Cincinnati Revolution, they've turned to Isaac Jeffries, number 46. Coming into today's game, he had 10 goals, led the team. It would not be a surprise today to see if he doesn't surpass that mark in just a single tally. He's already up to 6 in the first half. He has found his way past the Detroit Mechanics defense and made an easy going of things. I won't say easy. Clearly he's been guarded, but he has found his ways past that Detroit Mechanics defense. As we get set, the Mechanics will pull down the field to the Cincinnati Revolution to receive this disc. A couple of players missing from Cincinnati today. One of those being Kevin Reichert. Another being Eric Converse, Matt Glenn, and Will Huffer, all off the roster this week. I know they're watching, though, so rooting on their team for whatever reason. The Revolution getting ready to pull. Isaac Jeffries taking to the field once again. And right now, if you're Detroit, that had to have been the number one topic of conversation in their locker room. How to stop number 46 in white. He has made it look almost effortlessly the way he's cut downfield. Again, he doesn't give you that persona that this is going to be one of the big cutters for any type of team. You think this guy's probably going to be a handler of sorts, but what he reminds me of, and getting the opportunity to see him last year as he played for the Indy Alley Cats, is a back in the game of football. He's got that big build, and he has that ability to get that speed going. So score update real quick. Philadelphia leading D.C. 18-16 now, starting the fourth quarter off. And at halftime in New Jersey, Rochester still leading New Jersey by a score of 10-7 now. So Rochester looking for their first win. Cincinnati looking to get their second as the poll comes out. And the second half is underway here. Jeff Kula starting things off, gets it to Power. Power comes into Sittler. No, he goes the other way back to Kula. Kula on the far sidelines, Gorman. Instead, he works at the middle of the field to Lowell. Lowell goes up past Abella. He gets to Isaac Jeffries. Jeffries slowing things down, working it back to his handlers as he now takes off downfield. Bansfield guarding Jeffries tightly. He's been a stone in the shoe of the Mechanics this last half. Sittler on the far sideline has no upcuts. It almost looks like the Revolution start playing. Sittler going deep, though. Somehow Lowell gets past Abella. The disc floats, and Abella can't get there, and it's a 14-13 lead now for Cincy, who starts off the way they wanted to, receiving that pull, able to get the first points on the board here in the second half. 11 minutes and 22 seconds remaining, so again, putting that in nearly just a half a minute. Josh Lowell has definitely had an effect here in this game against the Detroit Mechanics, and that's one of those things that can happen to a team. As we see Sittler going with the throw, Josh Lowell will be coming on your screen here for the point, 14-13. But when you have a player who seems to be beating you, you try and set up so he can't stop you, and all of a sudden it opens up for other players. We'll see if Detroit has an answer for the offense here of the Revolution, but a team that prides itself on being slow and almost methodic and keeping the disc so that they can take time off the clock. Certainly been able to play with this Detroit Mechanics team. We said at the top of the hour, that's the way they like to play. But that said, you give them the deep cut, they have a number of players who can throw it. Sittler being one of them. We just saw the deep throw there to Lowell, and another being Power. Upfield now come the Mechanics. Worsfold going to the far sideline. Ben Ayers wearing the two gloves on his hand, goes back to Wilkin. Wilkin about crossfield to Worsfold. Worsfold playing that handler in position as Dave Hohalter being worked on tightly by his defender of the Revolution. Evan Hughes now being guarded by Corley. Corley gets a little too close, the official says. Let's walk 10 yards and do it again. Corley sets back up on the mark. Hughes inbounds it to Christo Ferguson. Ferguson looking up, finds Hohalter. Hohalter's got Ben Murphy on this near sideline. He goes with a hammer to no one instead. Ben Murphy wasn't exactly open on this far sideline, but still may have been a better decision than that one made there. This comes back in, and it's the Revolution quickly working downfield. Foley gets it to his man, Gorman. Ryan Gorman back upfield, finding Aaron Corley. Corley back into the middle, resetting things. Number 52, Ben Olson. Olson loses the throw to Foley. Hohalter quickly back in, goes with the deep cut, gets the momentum, but doesn't have a deep throw for himself, so he goes back to Wilkin instead. Wilkin has the deep throw, though. Can Ferguson get to it before Grace? The answer, yes. Ferguson with another big score. Todd Grace just too far behind him to get the score. 9 minutes, 55 seconds now remaining in the third quarter. All tied up at 14. Neither side letting the other one out of their sights. The biggest lead I think we've had in this contest so far has been 2 by the Detroit Mechanics. Aside from that, they've pretty much switched point per point. Both sides doing what they can to get into the end zone. You'll see Hohalter here. He has to dump it to Wilkin. Wilkin has no problem going deep on that outside in throw. And right into your screen, Christel Ferguson. And there you see the spirit of the game, the two players talking to each other after a tightly contested disc. Letting the other know, hey, you almost had that one, but for now it's a point for us. Up comes the pull. The Revolution will start things off now. Deep in their end zone. Sittler to the middle. Doesn't have the throw, decides better of it. Finally finds his man, Power. Power gets it outside to Ben Sage. Sage goes into Jeffries. Jeffries on the rare in cut. He's throwing, but he's got that backhand. Sittler under it, but Zach Barnhart there too, and it's knocked to the ground by Sittler. I think Sittler would like, we're going to have a foul called here on Zach Barnhart. He's not happy with the call, but it's not going to matter what the official says goes. As players talk things over, I would assume no, I'm not sure what's happening now. But you can see Sittler and Zach Barnhart, who just seems baffled by the call. We're going to have an injury timeout. I believe the call was made on the field. A foul on Barnhart. Sittler's going to leave the field now injured. Looked like he hit his head pretty hard when he went to the turf. Coming into the game now for Sittler is Gorman. Gorman's Sittler actually bleeding. That's why he leaves the game. Cut up his arm. We'll take a look at this one more time. It's a tough hit. Sometimes you hit players, sometimes you just hit the turf. But he actually screwed up his elbow a little bit, was bleeding on the sideline as he came to the trainer for the squad. He's being fixed up right now. Jeff Kula will start things off here. Gorman comes in the game for Sittler. Kula looking into the end zone. Looked like an ISO for Jeffries. Doesn't have it. Now it's going to be Ben Sage with the disc, finding Gorman for the score. 14-14. 9 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in the third. I'll correct that. 15-14. That's right. The Revolution have the advantage here. They started with the disc in a tie game at 13. Take a look at it one more time. Jeff Kula, formerly played with Mad Cow, one of 3 players from the Columbus area on this squad now. Ryan Gorman, formerly out of Ohio University. Happy to see what his Bobcats have done this year. Ohio U will be representing the Ohio Valley in the national tournament this season, as that takes place Memorial Day weekend. As the best college programs look to see who will be crowned the champ this year. And then maybe they'll come play in the AUDL, the future of Ultimate Frisbee, Ultimate Disc, or just Ultimate as it's called a number of times. On the sideline there, you see the owner of the Mechanix, Brent Steep, talking to the officials about something that took place. We're going to have a quick timeout. So Andrew Lucarati goes over to speak. Andrew Lucarati, the coach / captain of this Mechanix team. Todd Grace goes over now to speak with the officials as well. Says, hey, guys, if you're going to have a conversation, I want all sides of the party involved in this one. So as the discussion reigns on, can't tell you what they're talking about. It certainly appears there's a discrepancy over something. Hopefully a resolution will be reached here. And we can get back underway. Luke Roddy looks confused about something. Doesn't appear as though anything's changed, though. Score remains the same, 15-14, the Cincinnati Revolution. They will be pulling to the Detroit Mechanics. Just a quick reset here, 9 minutes and 7 seconds on the clock in the third quarter. After the discussion, another one continues on the line. As Todd Grace speaks to the officials. Todd Grace, a former member of the Bluegrass Revolution, moved up to Ohio with the team. Getting the chance to talk to Ramey Youngkin before the game here, the GM of the Cincinnati Revolution. He talked about how this is a team made up of not just Cincinnati, but the Kentucky area, the Ohio area, some players from Cincinnati, from Columbus, from Louisville, Kentucky as well on this team, and then a few from Asheville, North Carolina, who came up to join the squad as well. Corley putting the mark on Ferguson. It's now Ben Ayers in the middle of the field. He slows things down before working it to Ferguson. Ferguson to Worsfold. Worsfold near far sideline to Hohalter. Hohalter to Ayers. Slowing it down as the mark gets put on. Back across the field to Wilkin. Over a laying out defender into the air. Dave Hohalter with the score. Todd Grace just couldn't get to that one. 15 all. We're tied up once again.
Again, a score, Dave Hohalter.
8 minutes and 27 seconds left on the clock. Rusty the Wrench on the sideline, giving his props to the team as we look at the play one more time. Ben Ayers working on his defender, Fedorenko, who's just been a tough guard for Ayers all day long, but Hohalter able to break free of Todd Grace for the score. The Revolution want to answer quickly. Right now, the advantage is in their favor. If they score here, they will take the lead. As teams trade points and sides of the field after every score in the game of Ultimate. Trade pulls, I should say. Gorman gets the disc, works it to Lowell. Slowly works it back to his handlers. Gorman back upfield, finding Ben Sage. Sage goes back across to Gorman. Gorman looking upfield. He doesn't have a mark. There should actually not be a stall count put on him until Mansfield gets to within 10 feet. I'm not sure if he reached that mark or not. But Lowell going deep. Ben Sage has the height, but he doesn't have the length of the field. Yes, he does. The officials call him in, and it's Isaac Jeffries with his 7th score of the game. It looked like Ben Sage might have been out of bounds there. It's tough to see, though, with the lines. I may have been reading that blue line, which is part of a soccer field here. Originally, I thought that was his marker, but he does stay in bounds. Gets the disc to Isaac Jeffries for the score, his 7th of the game. We'll see what Jeffries can do in the rest of this contest. He certainly has been a big role here in the first half. 6 scores alone in that first half. We'll see Jeff Kula being worked on by Logan Van Treese, and there's the deep cut there by Ben Sage. There's the far sideline. You see that line there. Looks like Ben Sage was in. So a good call by the official. It's a quick score update. 3 minutes left in the game. Philadelphia right now over the District of Columbia Breeze, 21-18. But here it's 16-15 Cincinnati. Detroit with the disc, working into the middle of the sideline. Wide opens Ben Ayers. Seems like the Revolution set on letting a lot of these Mechanix players on the in-cuts, trying to keep things from going too deep. Good decision here against this Detroit team. As we mentioned, a number of players who are willing to throw that deep. Both teams actually on the season have a Callahan. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Dave Hohalter now goes back to the middle to Ferguson. Ferguson, nowhere to go, so he works it back to Evan Hughes, his other handler. Hughes sees Wilkin on the in-cut and has Wilkin as Gorman lets him take that dump. Murphy goes with the hammer to the end zone. Dave Hohalter for the score. 16 all between these two squads. Two Callahans so far on the season for both these teams. 2 weeks ago against Madison, it was Matt Wilkin who received the Callahan. Not an easy task to do. We've seen it in the AUDL, the caliber of these players. They can play offense as well as defense, make the throws, tight Ds as well. But Matt Wilkin had a layout in the end zone a couple weeks ago for his Callahan, and then the other was Chris Powers last week against the Windy City Wildfire in their doubleheader. Back into the end zone there, you have Ben Murphy to Dave Hohalter for the score, making it 16 all. It's been an interesting week in Ultimate, and player in the Ultimate community, actually Cameron Brock for the Indy Alley Cats. We talked about him this week. Talked about him a little bit yesterday, talk about him again today. He is second in the AUDL in scoring, but will be out 4 to 6 weeks. He had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in his brain. He's doing all right. The doctors were able to locate it and prevent it in time, but unfortunately, something that could turn deadly. Luckily for Cameron Brock did not, but unfortunately for himself and the Indy Alley Cats, actually the AUDL in general, you lose a player of that caliber, one of the stars that this league really has to offer. One of the dull stars, I guess I would say, is Isaac Jeffries cutting deep into the end zone. Just he wasn't noticed. It didn't seem like. He played his college ultimate at Ball State. Cameron Brock did. Played his college ultimate at Ball State, and then he went on to play with the Indy Alley Cats, and really last year, I think, got his first notice. I mean, there wasn't a lot of talk about him before. He wasn't one of the guys that players were mentioning before they went in to play against Indianapolis, but at the end of the year, he certainly was the name on everybody's lips when you talked about the Alley Cats. Up into the air, knocked away by Abella, and he's able to grab it. He'll bring it back out as that was a defensive effort to Highsmith. Highsmith setting up now, finding Luke Arati in the middle of the field. Bunch of in-cuts, no deep cuts for Detroit, and they just end up clogged, and a good timeout taken there by Andrew Lucarati. I don't know if he just didn't like what he saw out of his cutters there, or he decided they needed an offensive line on the field. 16-16 game, good time to take a timeout, get back into this, get the advantage back going your way, but there just were no deep cuts. Everything was going to the same spot, and a good job by Lucarati as this will reset the stall count to 7 as well. Teams talk things over. But with a player such as Cameron Brock, you hate to see something like that, something that's out of his control. From the understanding I got and what was going on is he was just at a team facility, warming up, practicing, getting ready for upcoming games, and all of a sudden had a headache. Next day went to the doctor, and they discovered the subarachnoid hemorrhage in his brain. So he's out 4 to 6 weeks, but luckily is healthy aside from that. Hopefully will rejoin the Alley Cats. As talked about it a little bit yesterday with some of these Mechanix players. They said he'd probably join Indy just in time for him to return to play the Mechanix. So that's the respect he gets around the league. And, in fact, he deserves that respect here in Detroit as he set a record for scores in a single game in the opening week of the AUDL season right here in Pontiac, Michigan at the Ultimate Soccer Arena. Ferguson with the disc. Now finding Evan Hughes on the near sideline, looking for Ayers, doesn't have anybody. Logan Van Treese has a chance at the end zone, decides better of it, finds Ferguson. Ferguson with a man deep in the back of the end zone, comes back instead to his handler, back to Van Treese on that far sideline, nearly knocked away. Risky play there as Kevin Kula was right there, but instead it'll turn out all right for the Mechanix as Dave Hohalter is in the end zone one more time. 17-17 all tied up. 17-16 Mechanix lead. Apologize for that. Looked at the scoreboard incorrectly. 5 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock. We'll take a look at it one more time, and you can see what Hohalter is able to do. He's just able to spread this defense. And you saw him in the middle of your screen there, and once that disc starts to work its way across, it's so hard. That's a break throw, too, for the Mechanics. It just, you can't do anything. You saw where the defender was standing when that camera passed by him. You can't get to that disc in time when you have the break throw. So good job by the Mechanics of swinging that around and getting those break throws. Here comes the pole. The Revolution want to answer this quickly. They've lost the advantage here. Jeff Kula has his man. That first throw, always an easy one. If the defense doesn't get down, Will Power up to Gorman. Being marked by James Highsmith. Tall player with a giant wingspan. When he's marking you, it's never easy. Almost like facing a one-man double team. Kula on the far sideline to Lowell. Gorman coming in for him. Power now. Across the field. This near sideline now. Here come the Revolution. Ben Sage with the disc. We had a collision upfield between Chamberlain and Hubbard. Both players get up unaffected. They continue on their routes. Lowell going upfield to Chamberlain. Eric Hubbard broken and fractured hand and all, able to knock that disc away. Wearing the cast. Interesting thing about that cast, he is right-handed, and if you'll notice, he's wearing that cast on his right hand. So he's learning to throw with a big object over there. You talk about wearing gloves and how that might throw you off. Imagine wearing a cast. Abella now with the disc for Detroit, resetting their offense. And here comes Hubbard on the in-cut. Hubbard nearly had a score yesterday, but it was taken away by Abella. As that disc goes into the end zone, Highsmith up over, can't get to it as Gorman knocks it away. Ryan Gorman just too fast, able to knock that away, had better position on it than Highsmith. We saw Highsmith earlier in the game. Right now he's frustrated with himself as you saw him clapping his hands together. Thought he should have had that. Highsmith, a tall player, tall athletic player who can go up there and get that thing when it floats. Didn't float too much there for him, though. Gorman just had the better positioning. Game all about positioning. You'll hear players talking about getting your library card. You have to be able to read the disc when it's thrown. It's unlike any other sport, the amount that the object can curve and move around on you. We noticed yesterday in the wind against Minnesota, the disc was floating around quite a bit. Now that you're indoors, you're going to have a lot more of inside-outs, outside-in throws to open receivers, which makes it extremely difficult for a defender. Low upfield, goes deep, and Sage, can he get to it? He does. He's got it. Johnny Bansfield laid out. Looked like he had the D, but it's Ben Sage who comes down with it, and we get a reaction from that bench as they all run out onto the field to congratulate Ben Sage. Great job. It looked like this was going to be knocked away by Johnny Bansfield. And usually you have a player hit it, obviously that will affect the catch, but usually something that close plays a role as well, because we talk about the disc. It's a flat object. It's not round. You might lose sight of it for a second, and then that's all she wrote is it'll hit the ground. But Ben Sage able to come up with a big grab right there. Take a look one more time. It looked like Bansfield was there. He just was unable, just past his fingertips. What a throw there. One more score update right now. Philadelphia has defeated D.C. 23-18. That is in the books, so Philadelphia will maintain their second place spot in the AUDL East. And then in New Jersey, Rochester grasping on to a slim lead now, 11-8. They lead the 11-8. They lead the New Jersey Hammerheads. So Philly will move up with a 2-1 record. They'll be tied with the New York Empire for second place in the East. Dave Hohalter going deep. Christo Ferguson, Mark Worsfold. Worsfold comes down with it. It's tipped at the last moment by number 52, Ben Olson. But Worsfold's able to hold on to it on the tip, and he gets the score. 18-17 now, the Mechanics leading. Again, we thank all you for tuning in today to GoLiveSportsCast.com as we bring you the Detroit Mechanics Cincinnati Revolution game. Some words being exchanged between players. We take a look at this one more time. Great throw there by Dave Hohalter, as always. Comes down in the hands of Worsfold. Nearly had it. To be honest with you, it looks like Ben Sage nearly saved that one for, I believe that was Ben Olson, but it looked like he actually saved that one for Mark Worsfold as it was bouncing out of Worsfold's hands. And then when Olson tipped it, knocked it right back into them. 18-17 lead for Detroit. 2 minutes, 49 seconds. In the Ultimate Soccer Arena in Pontiac, Michigan. The second of 2 games this weekend for the Detroit Mechanics. And we've taken a look at how that affects teams here in the AUDL. The only one who really has been unaffected by it is the Toronto Rush, as they've won all their games, played twice on back-to-back days. But it has been a struggle for some of these teams. Minnesota got their first win in a big way against the Indy Alley Cats, then went on to lose to the Cincinnati Revolution the next day. And last week it was a double loss for the Revolution, who played the Mechanics on a Saturday and then fell to the Wildfire on a Sunday. But they look to get themselves back here in Detroit on a Sunday. It's Isaac Jeffries, who's been a big part of the success they've had offensively. 6-7 scores in the game. Tight mark being put on Eddie Mack as Jeffries receives the disc about as close as you can to the far sideline. Goes with his hammer throw again, breaking off. A great defensive effort by Weber there as he breaks off his man and is able to knock it down. Inbounded now. Here come the Mechanics. The far sideline. As they work that back in. Hard mark being put on by Chamberlain. But the Mechanics able to get away from it. Back into the center of the field. It's Andrew Lucarati. Johnny Bansfield. Back to Lucarati. About midfield right now. The Mechanics having to retreat to the defense here of the Revolution. Schwelm finding Bansfield into the end zone. Hubbard with the broken hand and all gets the grab. What cast? So he throws that down with emphasis. 2 receivers, 2 defenders there. Isaac Jeffries, one of them. Eric Hubbard just able to sneak behind them and runs that back post route towards the corner of the end zone. And it works out for the Detroit Mechanics, who now take a 2-point lead. We'll take a look at this one more time. Take a look at what Hubbard did. Didn't even expect that disc. But a great throw, great put there by Eric Hubbard. Sometimes you make a cut or you come out of a cut and you just end up in the right spot at the right time. And that's exactly what happened for Eric Hubbard right there. He was surprised to find the disc coming his way. But it's a welcome surprise. 1 minute left here in the third quarter. 2-point lead now for the Mechanics. A chance to improve their record to an impressive 4-1 on the season. Again, this is a team that, when coaches were asked, were put in the bottom of this pool. The Ultimate Media put them in the bottom of the standings. Said they wouldn't amount to much right now in what appears to be the hardest conference in the AUDL. They find themselves in a tie for second place. Going deep right now, number 42, Fedorenko. He's open. Highsmith can't get there in time. Easy score. Fedorenko snuck behind the entire defense of the Detroit Mechanics. He was virtually unguarded the entire way there. And we mentioned, they want to play the end disc. They want to take time off the clock, but you give the Revolution an opportunity like that, they're not going to turn it down. 19-18 now is what the Detroit Mechanics lead has fallen to after that score by Cincinnati. We'll take a look at it one more time. As Will Power just has all kinds of time. He's going to put that on the mark every single time. And there you have Mark Fedorenko in the end zone for the score. Easy. James Highsmith, you got to commend him for what he was able to do there. He gets back on his receiver, but I don't know if it was a misread there. He didn't understand he should be guarding that guy, or maybe Fedorenko, someone else was on him, but it did not work out for the Detroit Mechanics. Some sort of misunderstanding as he ran scot-free into the end zone for the score. 43 seconds now left in the third quarter. We're getting close to the final minutes of play in this one, but right now it's Matt Wilkin with the disc, trying to end this quarter on a high note for the Detroit Mechanics. Would definitely give them an advantage. It will be the Revolution who receive the pull after this. It is a loose mark, but a good mark being put on by Sittler. And again, Ferguson has to work it to his handlers and then will return upfield to his cutting position. Wilkin being guarded by Kevin Kula, goes with a hammer. The indoor field, it goes up. Dave Hohalter should have had it, but out of his hands, Todd Grace. Good sportsmanship right there, as Todd Grace said he got a piece of Dave Hohalter, so a foul will be called. Dave Hohalter, this is a spot foul. So Dave Hohalter will have this disc at the front of the end zone. He'll be able to center it. So 1 yard separates the Mechanics from another 2-point lead. That's about as far as they've been able to pull away from Detroit here. And now we have some more confusion. Looks like the guy that... Well, timeout called by Detroit.
Turnover Mechanics.
Dave Hohalter dropping the disc to the ground. It's a turnover. Todd Grace will have it now, and he wants a timeout. So that's what's going to happen as the Cincinnati Revolution take a timeout. And some more confusion as the players talk to the official. It looks like Dave Hohalter did that out of a good spirit, which is a very nice thing of him to do.
Right now being a good time to do the 50-50 raffle. A whopping $6 in the 50-50 raffle.
This is a timeout as players are discussing things. Kevin Kula on the field now talking to the officials. I was trying to hear what exactly he was saying. He was very boisterous in the way he delivered the message to the guys in stripes out there. Timeout was taken. I realize referees have to talk this over, but there should be a limited amount of time here. There's 0.6 seconds on the clock. That may have been part of the reason Hohalter was affected and decided to simply drop the disc to allow possession. And now Detroit's going out like they're set up for a pull. I don't know if they're just trying to defend the end zone or if indeed they're accepting the pull. I think right now there's two players. Matt Wilkin and Dave Hohalter up where the disc will be brought inbounds. Right now this is just a Hail Mary with 0.6 seconds. Disc should be blown in by the referee. It has to be touched in. 0.6 seconds doesn't seem like a whole lot of time to throw a disc. Now, they've had combines, and I don't know if this is on the list. It didn't go anywhere. I don't know if that's something that's on the list, but maybe in future combines around the AUDL, the release time of a player will be one of those things that's looked into. But 0.6 seconds just didn't seem like enough time to make that throw. So essentially, Detroit put on a double team to assure the disc would go nowhere. That's what happens. We're in the final quarter now. 12 minutes put back on the clock. Teams will talk things over. 19-18. Commendable job by the Detroit Mechanics defense right there. Isaac Jeffries was a thorn in their side the entire first quarter. He had 6 scores alone in the first half, 4 of them coming in the first quarter, and now he just has 1 through that third quarter. Midway through the third right now in Rochester in New Jersey. Rochester leads the New Jersey Hammerheads by a score of 13-11. So that's the AUDL action around the league so far. As we mentioned, 1 final in the books. Philadelphia has defeated the DC Breeze. They'll move into a tie with New York for second place in the AUDL East. Taking a look at the 2 squads here today as Cincinnati returns to their end zone to get ready to receive the pole. There's been really 2 guys who have been scorers for the Cincinnati Revolution. Nobody truly stands out as an individual who's taking things over, but Ryan Gorman has 7 on the year, and coming into this game today, Isaac Jeffries had 10. Now their assist leader not in this game today. Kevin Reichert is out. He has 10 on the day. Jeff Kula, one of the other guys on this team who is used to putting that disc into the end zone. Isaac Jeffries, number of assists as well, 10 goals, 6 assists. So sort of an all-around player. He's been doing it all for the Revolution. Well, let's get this underway right now. The Revolution down just 1 to the Detroit Mechanics. And if you thought this was a good rivalry, well, get down to Cincinnati next week, because these same 2 squads will be playing again on Saturday. No rest for the weary. It's sort of an interesting schedule here for the Detroit Mechanics. They played Madison yesterday, and then they played Cincinnati today. Well, next week they play Cincinnati, and then the week after that they head west for back-to-back games against Minnesota and Madison. Deep going down the field is Hohalter. Underneath it is Ben Ayers, but so is Fedorenko. Make it 4 Ds for Mark Fedorenko. He has been all over the field today, doing everything he can to prevent that deep threat of Ben Ayers by the Detroit Mechanics, and it's worked out almost more times than not, as now it'll be the Revolution going back down the field. Aaron Corley on the far sideline having a tough mark put on him by Ben Ayers. Gets it away to his dump before he finds Ben Olsen. Olsen coming back across the field. Aaron Corley again. Aaron Corley looking downfield, finding Gorman. We have a stoppage in play, though. Gorman has the disc. I think this will be a continuation. Nope. It's going to come back to Ben Olsen.
Looks like a
Contact foul. Ben Olsen now will take the disc in. He will throw it to Gorman. Gorman sets things back up. Corley has the cut in. Looks like he finds his man, number 42, Fedorenko there. Goes back to his dump. He has to retreat. And this is where the Mechanics' defense has been so strong. Break but not bend. And before Todd Grace solves the combination and gets through that lock of the defensive Mechanics. 19 all now. Last time we were here in Pontiac, Michigan, we went to double overtime. We may be along that track right now, which is 10 minutes remaining in the final quarter of play. Neither side has been able to pull away from the other. Both sides have had leads, and this is the most recent point scored by the Revolution. As right here, we see Todd Grace put the exclamation mark in the sentence. Both sides lining up now, trying to figure out what the best matches are. The Cincinnati Revolution moving things along, moving things around on their line. There's the pull by Mark Fedorenko. Back to receive, Ben Murphy. Centers it to Hughes. Looking upfield, finds Ferguson. Ferguson being marked now by Ben Olsen, but it's not enough as the dump goes back, looking for Dave Hohalter, Evan Hughes, but Hohalter unable to get to it. Cincinnati a chance to take the lead here in the minutes of the game. We talked about how Cincinnati likes to keep the disc in their hands, likes to try and run as much time off the clock as they can. Swartling returns it back to his defender, back to his man, Fedorenko. I'm not sure what he was thinking there with that put. There's some fancy throws in ultimate, but you got to know when it's time. And they dodged a bullet right there as Ferguson sees the disc go between his hands. Fedorenko has to make better decisions offensively. He's been a staple defensively for this Revolution team, but to make a throw like that at a time like this, just not a good idea. The Revolution take a timeout. Good idea. Get an offensive line on the field. They're still about 80 yards away, though. I don't know that this is the point I would make that call to switch lines up. Clearly, since the timeout's taken, you want to now, but I might have tried to work the disc down the field because a bad turn here, you're stuck with your offensive hands. You're stuck with your offensive line to try and make a big defensive stop. I believe that's the first timeout here. That's the second timeout for the Revolution. That's their last of the half, too. I'd have waited. Two sides talking things over. It's Rusty the Wrench having a good time listening to some Gongman style. And he's going to break out into it right now. I don't know how to commentate this, folks. It's a Wrench doing Gongman style. Never seen it before. You have now. Welcome to the AUDL.